How is everybody? Today I will be recapping the game that happened yesterday between Minnesota and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I would like to say this: the Minnesota Vikings lost, I think, primarily due to sloppy play, penalties, all that. You know, I think a lot of the scoring drives were actually promoted by penalties or prolonged by all the penalties that we had on defense. And I think what really started it was the Brian Robeson one, where he actually jumped off sides when it was first down, not first, it was 4th and 1 on like their own 31 in the first quarter. Now I don't know why he jumped. Like, it's the first quarter. Do you really think they're gonna go for it on their own side of the field of the first quarter? And I think the most concerning part about it is not only did it lead to a touchdown, it's the veteran Brian Robinson. Now, I I don't know how much you guys noticed this, but to me, Robinson is becoming more of a liability than I think it's because of an age regression. But he seems kind of outmatched in the passing when he's trying to pass rush, and in the run game, he's more of a liability now. So I don't know how. It's kind of like a more of a feel good story, like, oh, he's a long time Viking. It's like, well, there's a point where it's like all time, nice legend, not really legend for Robinson, but like career guy that you have throughout his entire career. But I think he also needs to be brought up by production in the games. I don't know how much we're getting from that. They ended up having 11 penalties for 131 yards. Now, I know a lot of people are going to blame Trey Waynes, although I'm not. I'm going to pump the brakes on ending the Trey Waynes thing because I'm not entirely sure if he's actually like I think that was corners get beat all the time. That's just kind of what happens. So I'm not gonna say, "Oh, he's trash. We need to get rid of him." No, 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 not just yet. Not just yet. He just needs to play with some better technique and actually try to press people. But I think if he does that, he'll be a solid, okay number two corner. That's all he needs to be with Rhodes on the team. So I'm not willing to say he's bad. I think it could be bad if he doesn't step up here pretty soon. But I just mean, I hold back a little bit on Trey. I'm not going to say he's bad yet. But if we go into the stats of this game, I really think not having Sam Bradford play this game was a big, big, big issue. So Case Keenum was 20 of 37 for 167 yards. They gave him a 4.5 yards per attempt average. Now that's horrible. And to me, the play calling seemed like it had a quarterback that didn't have, like that they didn't trust actually throwing the football. So that was a problem to me. And yeah, that was really not good. I think if we have Sam in this game, we may actually win it, like just because of we might be able to keep up because he was missing open receivers. So he had a QBR of 24.7 and a rating of 65.9. And then the fake punt was just desperation, so I'm not even going to go over that, I think. I think we all kind of knew what that was. Dalvin Cook couldn't really get going in this game, although I do think that's partially because of Sam Bradford. Now, since he's not in the game, we don't really have much of a threat with Case Keenum throwing. We become more predictable with running the football. So, and technically, for his carries, he didn't have a bad day because he only had 12 carries. He had 12 carries for 64 yards. Questionable touchdown to me. But he had 5.3 yards per carry average. McKinnon also had a 5.3 yards per carry average with 3 carries for 16 yards. Now, Latavius Murray had a 2-yard per carry average with 3 carries for 6 yards. Now, how I would expect this to keep, like total, we actually had 20 carries for 91 yards and 1 touchdown because CJ Ham. So I do think running the football was still better than what it was last year, obviously, but I just don't. Just getting it was bad, I think. like just everything. The offense became a lot more predictable without without Sam Bradford in the game and Case Keenum entering. So I really think not being able to check at the line of scrimmage and change the play that we had with Sam last week. Well, I guess the week 1 going into week 2, we saw him changing in and out of plays. We don't have that with Case Keenum. Case Keenum is going to run what was called, and it was not always that good. So I do think the offensive line, it did have its moments of being not that great, but also I don't know if anyone was expecting it to be great because we signed Mike Remmers and Riley Reef. Neither of them are all pros. They will never be all pros. They will be okay. Remmers probably not so much on the okay side, more on the mediocre side. So I think we need to expect that going in. Elflein is the guy who's going to be developmental here. And you look at his development, and he can possibly go further. I would expect him to go further. I think he's actually going to be a pretty good center. He was pretty much consensus number 1 center in the draft, I believe. So I think the defense actually played well in this game, though. They really did, considering what happened in this game. Because you will never completely stop the Pittsburgh Steelers. You kind of need to pick your poison with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben was 23 of 35 for 243 yards with a 6.9 yards per attempt average. He had 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was sacked twice by Everson Griffin with a QBR of 77.2 and a rating of 104.8. Le'Veon Bell was actually kept under 90 yards by 3 yards, but he had 27 carries. So he had that 87 yards and a 3.2 average with only a long of 11. They still had 102 yards total rushing, but I really think they played well on that side given what was their offensive line is kind of more of a big mauling offensive line. So they don't really, how do I say this? We have more speed, so actually limiting them to that was probably good. And the fact that we're more of a turf team and they're a grass team, that does matter because you kind of build your team around that. So it will either be, like if you're a turf team, it will be based around speed. And if you look at Minnesota, we've played in a dome for a pretty good while now. So you'll constantly see us having a more of an undersized defense, kind of flying to the ball, speedy, fast, athletic, and those kind of guys. If you look at some of the other teams, like if we stay inside the division, Green Bay, they're not necessarily the fastest team, and that's kind of why. So, because it doesn't really translate as well to the grass field. So, given that they're more of a power thing, that was actually pretty good for us. Receiving, Antonio Brown only had 5 receptions for 62 yards, and his long was 26. So we actually held Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell in check, but that left Martavis Bryant to kind of go off a little bit with 3 receptions on 4 targets for 91 yards, and obviously that touchdown with a long of 51. So I do think that's where Trey Waynes needs to step up. Like we look at a team like Pittsburgh where I think Trey Waynes can be an okay number 2 corner. So the problem is we have him covering what I would consider a number 1 receiver with almost any other team that's not the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Martavis Bryant's almost like a number 1 kind of guy. He's just has Antonio Brown on the other side of him, so it causes a problem. That's why this team is so difficult to match up with. Now, Antonio Brown actually had 11 targets, so there is that as well. So we limited their weapons for the most part, and that's why I think if we could have just not even one, if we could have cleaned it up on this penalty side of things, we possibly would have been good to go here. So there is all of that. And then if we go further into these stats, you have Everson Griffin with 2 quarterback hits. Linval and Daniel each had 1. So 4 total quarterback hits in this game via ESPN.com. So I do think we were actually able to get okay things going in this game, like on defense at times. Just the penalties really killed it. And I don't know how like today they said Sam Bradford had a bone bruise on his knees kind of day to day. Now, I don't know if they would actually be okay with playing Kyle Slaughter at that spot eventually, like, because Case Keenum can't do it. We cannot win with Case Keenum. Because I know what Zimmer said with, like, he could be out 1 week, could be out 6 weeks. I think that was just him saying it out of frustration. It's probably more than likely 1 to 2 weeks that he could be out. But the more we play with Case Keenum, the more games we will lose. We cannot win with Case Keenum at the quarterback spot. It cannot be done, I don't think. So that leaves us to, we need to rely on this running game, but we need to not be so predictable at the same time, and that really becomes a struggle. So I do wonder if they would consider playing Kyle Slaughter. I really do. Because we look at the defensive side, I don't think it's as impenetrable as some people make it out to be. Because Trey Waynes does, I don't think it's fair to Trey Waynes to say he's a failed draft pick just yet, even though it's his 3rd year. It's his 1st year actually starting. So he's out there for most of the snaps, which he usually isn't. Terrence Newman looks old. They probably need to get Tremaine Brock in there to at least play the nickel. And possibly push Trey Waynes for that outside spot that we can rotate Alexander in with Newman probably in the nickel, or just or if you're talking about pushing Trey Waynes out of the lineup, you play Tremaine Brock and Rhodes on the outsides with probably Newman in the nickel with Alexander rotating in and out with various guys. So if that's, and I don't know how much better I feel about that, just because Newman, to me, he's looked a little old and kind of lost a step to me. So personally, I would love to use Newman as more of a reserve safety, or possibly replace Andrew Sendejo, because I'm tired of Sendejo. I am so fed up with Andrew Sendejo. It's insane. I don't really think he's the right guy next to Harrison Smith. I think we need someone probably with a little bit more coverage than Harrison. Not more coverage than Harrison, but more coverage than Sendejo to put alongside with Harrison Smith. So to me, it makes no sense to play basically what is a wannabe hybrid linebacker. He's been okay in run support, but he's never been elite in run support, and he's always been a liability in coverage. To me, he's a dime a dozen, and we don't need him. So I would like to get everyone else's opinions on this game, or anything I say about this, because yeah. But that will be all for now, I think. I might make another video about the whole quarterback situation thing. But please follow me on Twitter at Brian_Spatafora. You will get constant updates for when I make videos, or just my thoughts sometimes on little things. And I would love for you guys to subscribe, like, and comment. And that will be all for today. So, till next video, farewell.